three of our top broker owners and top professionals in the area. Mr. Fox could not make it. He had a prior commitment he was going to try and get out of. So that brings us down to the two top. So it's going to be like a process of elimination. We'll see if we can handle this. All right, we have Michael Lee, and Michael has actually been CRS, GRI, and been licensed real estate for over 30 years. He is managing broker for Realty One Group in San Ramon and author of 8 books, including Black Belt Negotiating, Selling to Multicultural Real Estate Clients, and 111 Ways to Justify Your Commission. I didn't know this was going to be a sales meeting, but here it is. Lee's spoken at 10 different national conventions and most of the real estate franchises across the country and Home Builders Association National Convention. And our next speaker will be Mr. Bill Aboumrad. Bill signs my checks. That's the important part. Bill's the owner and real estate attorney for Legacy Real Estate and Associates. Been in real estate for, we need more microphones up here. So he's been in real estate since for a long time. Yes. In fact, Adam and Eve bought their first house from Bill. Guess who's not signing this week's check?
That's probably about right, too.
All right. All right, so we have a few questions that were passed on to us. And I think because we only have the two of you gentlemen, and feel free to elaborate on some of these. Let's like to do a little bit more on your intro. Can you tell us a little bit about why you guys get into real estate, but just a short little intro and a little bit about your background that I did not cover.
I don't know, I think you read that.
I think put you on the spot.
I've been in the business for over 30 years. I've really enjoyed it. The reason I do real estate, and I think most of us could sell virtually anything, but I do it because selling people homes is someplace where they're going to grow a family. It's a major part of their investment. So that's why I sell real estate. I've had clients from day one, sold them a little tiny condo, moved them into a townhouse, then moved them up into a small single family. Now they have big homes overlooking the bay. As you know, it's a wonderful thing. One quick suggestion though, keep in touch with your clients. So my business is pretty much all referral. If you ever want to retire from this business, the only thing you've got to value is your client list. So if a new agent moves into the area, you could sell your client list. I've done it for my agents, but it's all you've got. So keep in touch with them, keep it current, and make it detailed.
Okay, well, I got into the business because I was an SOB, son of a broker. So when you're a son of a broker, you always have a lot of influence there from your father who says, why don't you go get your real estate license? So I actually did that right out of high school. So I've actually been licensed since 1978. But I did, like Jim said, went on to college, went to law school, and decided that law really wasn't my calling. There are winners and losers in the legal profession, and the nice thing about our profession is you can have winners all the way around. So it's much, much nicer. It's not adversarial. We work in a cooperative business as opposed to an adversarial business. And the thing that keeps me in it is that it's never the same. So every transaction's different, you know, and you never get bored. So in this business, and I don't think, I was just telling Gib, we never retire. You know, realtors just never retire. So you can't retire in this business. When that client calls you up and says, you know, hey, when you come and sell my house, or my son needs to buy a house, you know you're going to be there. So it's a great business to be in. I've really enjoyed it for about the past. I've been working full time for about the past 27 years. So
you never retired, Jeannie. How does that work for you?
It's perfect.
Exactly. Okay, so right now with some of the issues we're seeing and all that, so what are the biggest liabilities you're seeing right now for the agents that we need to be aware of? Who wants to start that?
Well, I think our biggest liabilities haven't changed at all, Jim. I think they're the same. What's the number one issue that brings us into court?
Disclosure.
Lack of disclosure. Guess what? It's been the same for 30 years. And my agents call me all the time, you know, should I disclose this? Should I disclose that? And we have a rule in our office, and I hope you do in your office. If it ever crosses your mind, I wonder if I should disclose it, disclose it. That's really it. And if you do that 99 times out of 100, you're going to be in good shape.
You know, I will go along with Michael on that, but the other big one, when that fails to work, that attorneys come after you guys for is breach of fiduciary duty. So if they can't get you on a disclosure issue, they're going to get you on a breach of fiduciary duty issue. Just as though they do with the brokers and us owners, where it's lack of supervision over our agent. Even though we can supervise all we want, but these are the two main areas that I see from a legal standpoint where the breach of fiduciary duty is a total catch-all to grab you on anything that they may miss on a disclosure, or maybe you're borderline on disclosure, then it becomes a breach of fiduciary duty. And I will tell you right now that if this market takes a turn for the worse, and all you folks out there that wrote contracts that had zero contingencies in them, be ready. Because the breach of fiduciary duty is going to rear its ugly head. And when things are good, everybody's happy. But as we saw through the Great Recession, when things get bad, the first person they turn to is that broker that put them in the property. And why did I do this? Why did I overbid by $100,000? Why did I waive all my rights? Blah, 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 blah. You know why they did it? Because you told them to. Right? It's always us. This is what my broker told me I had to do to get this property. So you got to be really, really careful, because that breach of fiduciary duty is what every attorney hangs their hat on.
So speaking of contracts, what are the main types of errors and issues that we're seeing with contracts right now that agents should be aware of, things that are repeating or things that are really, really red flags?
I think right now with the new RPA, there is a bit of a lack of understanding on the contracts. I still see a lot of issues where folks are changing the financing without anybody's knowledge. And, you can't do that. You can't do that on the new RPA. Or things with the closing costs are now in the new RPA, where if you've got closing cost credit in there, you don't have enough credit, you don't have enough closing costs to accommodate the credits. There's an assumption that, well, you know what, they're going to make an adjustment on price. And the contract's very, very clear on that. That's not going to happen. So I think the problem we're having right now is that there's a lack of understanding, really thorough understanding of the new purchase agreement, and really having a good grasp of it, and also having your clients have a good grasp of it. And I'm not so sure it's as prevalent here as it is, for example, my office in Fremont, where a number of my agents in Fremont, English is a second language. And a lot of times they're dealing with folks who don't speak very good English. And so now they're trying to take a contract written in English and interpret it into their native tongue. And there's something sometimes lost in the interpretation. And those are the issues that I'm really starting to see that are getting pretty prevalent.
I would agree with Bill in that we don't really completely understand the contract, at least first time through. It is very, very complex. I've taken it 3 times, once with Larry Spiteri and 2 other times, and I'm still not completely comfortable with it yet. And so you need to take more than one class. And I think one of the things that we don't even think about is the arbitration clause. Please do not advise your clients one way or the other. We've often heard, arbitration is quicker, arbitration is cheaper. It's not necessarily. I'm an expert witness in court, been there hundreds of times, and trust me, arbitration is not necessarily quicker or cheaper. So just let them know what it is, let them do their own research, and be sure that you let them decide. That's the main thing.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so now I've been noticing a lot of times buyers are coming in, they're checking out an open house, and they may be working with a realtor, but they want to make a deal with the listing agent. Or they're shopping around online, just going from agent to agent. They're doing this with the lenders, they're doing with the realtors. How can we increase the loyalty with our buyers?
Well, it's a challenge,
No pressure.
If you don't have loyalty with your clients, you're worried every Saturday, every Sunday, where are they? Are they out looking without me? Are they trolling the internet without me? What I would recommend you do, and I've done this a dozen times here at VREN, I told you, you've got to be thinking about using the buyer-broker agreement. If you have a buyer-broker agreement, you have a contractual client relationship with the buyer. Without a buyer-broker agreement, anytime your client walks into an open house, they are fair game. You know, there are agents out there, if you walk into their open house, they are aware. They'll ask your client, do you have an agent? And everybody says, oh yeah, we have an agent. But then they follow up by saying, do you have anything in writing with your agent? No, we don't. They know then that client is fair game. So if you want loyalty, learn how to sell the buyer-broker agreement, please.
Yeah, we've been talking about the buyer-broker agreement for years, and I'm going to agree with Mike on that, but I'm also going to say, as much as he can say that, you ain't going to do it. Okay? It's a fact, guys. We've been doing buyer-broker classes for years. It ain't going to happen. So for my personal take right now on buyer loyalty, it really is going to come down to us as agents and how we like to work together. So I will tell you, there's very few industries that I've ever seen where the folks within the industry cannibalize each other more than us. Attorneys don't do this, doctors don't do this, it doesn't happen. And we are part of our own problem. I mean, that's just the way it is. I can't tell you how many procuring cause cases I've been working with in the last 3 years that I've had to go to arbitration on procuring cause issues, where who procured this buyer. It would be great for us to be able to get buyer-broker agreement signed and actually post, almost like an MLS. This buyer is mine, I have him under contract. No different than a listing agreement, but it's not going to happen because we won't do it. But the fact of the matter is we got to start working together better. We got to start respecting each other's. If someone walks into my open house and says, I'm working with Michael, then leave the guy alone. Whether he's got a buyer-broker agreement or not really shouldn't matter. But it doesn't work that way. We don't do that. And we need to start doing that. We need to start looking at the procuring cause rules and really quantifying those rules. I said this at a broker hearing, that right now you have a procuring cause matrix, but there's no point system to it. So nobody knows how much weight gets given to each thing that the intro broker does and the closing broker does. So it's going to have to start with us within the industry. We can't rely on the consumer. And so the consumer's looking for the best deal they can get, and they're going to play us off of each other constantly. It starts with us.
I've been doing this business for over 30 years. I've never worked with a client without a buyer broker. There are many other agents that don't work with people without a buyer broker. Obviously, it is difficult to get it signed. If you know how to sell it, if you do a presentation that's like a listing presentation with your buyers, and they understand the value to them, they will sign it. But as Bill mentioned, many realtors don't use it, and good luck with that, because I've been in many procuring cause hearings, and if you go there, you have no idea what you're going to get. You're most likely going to waste your time. But if you have a buyer-broker agreement, there is no procuring cause question whatsoever.
So is it something that we should make like a car mandated form, like that they actually have a buyer-broker agreement, just like you're going to have a buyer or a listing agreement? Well, why not? If we're going to have a listing agreement, you can't put a house on without having a listing agreement. Can't write the offer without a purchase contract. I'm not going to throw a buyer in the car without a buyer-broker agreement. I like that.
It's probably the only way we're going to get people to use the buyer.
There you go. There you go. We can make that work. Everybody write your car person and tell them that's what we do. Okay, the other issues that we've been having, and this has been affecting, I know, title a lot too, but other realtors, and I see it all the time, I'm getting messages from people, and this is a lot of the hacking and phishing that's going on. How do we protect ourselves in these kind of situations? That's, yeah, no pressure, right? How do we protect ourselves in these situations and alert our clients that this kind of stuff is going on and they have to be aware?
I have no idea. I got to be honest with you. I think every time you develop a certain type of technology, someone else is going to come out there and hack the technology. I mean, for those of you that know me, I'm a low-tech guy. And God bless low-tech. Give me a phone and a fax. I never got hacked on my phone or my fax. So,
I can say stuff about them on Facebook and you'll never see it.
So the fact of the matter is that, we can do what we can try to do, and brokers are all having to spend a lot of money on encryption and things of that nature, but it just seems like every time we come out with some new technology, somebody else finds a way to breach that technology. I gotta be honest with you, I don't know what the answer is to this problem. All I think we can do is just tell people, hey, guard your information, try not to send anything too personal, in my opinion, over the internet, because I just think it's fair game. I don't care if it's encrypted or not. There's going to be people that are going to break this encryption.
Yeah, just be careful with your social media. Don't say, oh, we're going on vacation next week for 2 weeks to Aruba. Well, guess what? I mean, many people get broken into after that. That's just being silly. I mean, after you come back, go ahead and post your pictures and say, what a great time you had. The other thing is just be wise. The basic rules of email: don't open attachments from someone you don't know. Read carefully, because they're getting much more sophisticated now. I mean, it'll look like something coming from a lender, from a title company, and then people just, they've sent $80,000, $40,000, and it just disappears into the ether. So just take a second look before you ask your client to do something like send money or open an attachment. Be wise.
And I think there's a lot to be said of that too, just communicating verbally with your clients to let them know if something is coming from the title office or whatever, if they are asking to wire funds, and get the account number and give that to them verbally so they know there's no change. If they get an email that says it's going here instead.
Just be low tech and pick up the phone sometimes.
Well, there's been a lot in the news as well too, as far as all the hacking that's been going on. Let's see a show of hands. How many people had their Ashley Madison account hacked? There's a few back there. Okay. So quite a few. All right. More than I would have expected, but yes. Okay, do you have some other questions? You guys open it up for anything else you'd like to throw in before we open the floor up for some questions? Yes. Oh, we have a roaming mic here somewhere.
Wendy?
Hold on. Let me get the other mic.
Oh, just holler it. Holler
I
it.
can do it.
Go.
It's not so much a question. I thought I would add to your very good information about legal issues. What am I seeing as a lawyer in the trenches? Oral statements, modifying written contracts, partial disclosure, which means you do tell the truth and you give some of the information. You give some of the information as a complete truth. You're required by law to give the full and complete information about the subject you disclosed. Self-dealing, I'm still seeing real estate professionals buying their clients' properties out of foreclosure before they're lost and then reselling them, or participating in the repairs of the particular property out of their own pockets. And I connect these to giving legal advice in connection with writing really terrible addendums that are completely vague. Those are the areas I see most frequently. And by the way, it's not all that frequent in my practice, at least. So I just thought I'd add.
On the repairs, because I've seen a lot of times where agents are putting money up front to help the clients get a property ready to do repairs or whatever else. What were the issues you'd seen on that?
Becomes a conflict of interest. You did a repair that's too extensive, and your client doesn't want to repay that, and you get the close of escrow, you're trying to get your money out. It's just a mess. It's when you keep it separated, it's a much cleaner transaction. Those kinds of things. And they're even worse because we're not dealing with a lot of money, but the disputes cost you more on the tail end than the whole repair did in the first place.
Right. You guys can see the same kind of thing.
Well, for me, I want to just say that, one of the issues that we constantly run across, or at least I constantly run across, is that agents actually think they're attorneys. So this is gamesmanship for them, that I'm going to speak on behalf of my client, and you can't. And so they make the process a little more adversarial. Like, I'm out there to get my client the best deal and protect my client's interest, and then they start speaking on behalf of their client, and they're not attorneys, and they don't even have powers of attorney. So the fact of the matter is, your co-ops, your clients are the only, you can't speak for your client. Your client must be, you can load them up with information, but they've got to be the decision maker, and they got to be calling the shots. So I do see that, and it's one of the things that just drives me crazy.
And just be careful on the agent's disclosure. I see a lot of agents' disclosure that are completely blank. Did you even do an inspection? How can you look at a 2,000 square foot home and not find something to comment about? And then when you do not be descriptive. If there's a crack, don't say it's a hairline crack, it's a big crack, it's a small crack. It's a crack. Let the client decide what the severity is, if they think they should have further inspections. Just don't get descriptive, and you'll be fine.
I've actually had an agent give me an Avid one time and said, no problems found with a big line through it. I think I checked everything all in one shot.
Brad, did you have an issue?
Wait, hold on, we got a question over here.
Any question? Shelley, you
Question
have?
over here.
It's a live show, be careful.
I was so engrossed in listening to what you guys were saying, but my question was basically the disclosures that sometimes, I had a situation where there was a flat roof and they had put a wrong roof on top of the flat roof. It was supposed to be a, different style of roof. So there was no warranty or anything. So something like that comes up, what do we do at this point of time? I'm in a situation right now. I know it's not disclosure related, but I was thinking of asking you that before. So,
But it was a flat roof?
so it's a flat roof, half home was done flat, and then it was slanted when the new addition was done. And now what they did was they used the same style of roof which was used for slanting roof for the entire home, and all of that. So
I think a roof report would have taken care of that. I like to, any listing that I do, I always do all the inspections up front. It does a couple of things for you, and I make the seller pay for it. If the seller is invested in the marketing of the home, they're more likely to do what you ask them to do, lower the price when you ask them to lower it. They understand what it takes. But it also means that once you've done all the inspections, you provide the TDS, there's no 3-day right of rescission. They're making an offer based on everything they know. It's a much cleaner deal, and it's a much better transaction.
Yeah, in that scenario also, if they actually have changed a flat roof to a pitched roof,
they just put the material.
so you do need to also find out whether they pulled a building permit on something like that. And if they didn't, then that roof inspection is even more important to make sure that.
We had the roof inspections done twice for different, but I don't know what to do with it now, so instead of
We should try and cover that one after if you get specifics for them.
There's an attorney here you can maybe.
There we go. Yeah, buy the copy, you won't charge you a cent.
Brad?
Yeah, so along the lines of conflict of interest and fiduciary duty, what are your feelings about a realtor representing both the buyer and the seller on the same deal?
I don't have a problem with it. I don't.
I've done
And I'll tell you why I don't have a problem with it. Because the law says you can do it. Until they change the law, then I'll have a problem with it. But you got to have full disclosure. And the other thing that we recommend at our company is that if there's going to be competing offers, you need to disclose to all the other agents, number one, that you're writing an offer. So they know up front that you're writing an offer. Number two or three, whatever, you should bring all the other brokers in for the offer presentation. And if you don't want to do that, then have another agent in the office do the presentation with your seller and recuse yourself from the presentation. So that way we get somebody else looking at those offers. But what we try to encourage folks to do is that if you're competing, number one, let everybody know that you're writing. Okay, that's only, we got to try to level the playing field as much as we can. And then number two, I would prefer that you bring all those brokers in, have somebody else sitting with you and your client, and let everybody put their offers on the table. Because you know what, if you get legitimately beat, you get legitimately beat. Okay, and that's the way it is. So as long as you're up front and you disclose, I don't see an issue with that. The issue becomes the non-disclosure part, where the co-opting brokers, the other co-opting brokers, are left in the dark. And then lo and behold, yeah, the listing agent got the deal. Okay, but if I'm sitting at the table and I see that guy beat my offer, I can legitimately go back to my client and say, we didn't write the best offer. We got beat. Whether it's price or terms.
Dual agency obviously is not illegal. It is extremely difficult to do. And so we'll do the same thing as Bill does. In addition, the broker will present the offer, not the agent. So it has a much higher perception of fairness to everybody. Sheila?
Yeah, and on a side note to that, because I also serve on pro standards and I've heard many of these issues, And I just had one this week where it was, the listing agent double-ended it, and there were over 50 offers. And what a shock, yeah. And so they just asked for page 10 to be initialed, so that at least they know that their offer was presented. And we have a fiduciary responsibility to other agents to let them know that we did present their offers.
Well, it's true, but it is your listing. You do have an advantage because, of course, you even have a dual variable field that you can fill out and present to your seller that if you were representing a buyer as well, you may charge them less. And there's a field for that right on MLS.
So what do you recommend on a realtor that wants to list and sell their own property?
Well, there's no problem there, is there?
I actually had that come up a while ago when I lived in Castro Valley. My next door neighbor wanted to buy my house. So now I'm the listing agent, the selling agent, the owner of the property. Boy, there's no liability there when you walk into a courtroom. So what I did was I gave my neighbor to a competing office, to some agents I knew in a competing office, paid them a full commission to represent the buyer. And it was well worth it to me to reduce my liability to that. But it's up to you, how do you want to practice this business? But you do not want to be, and I've been there many times sitting as an expert witness, you do not want to be the seller, the selling agent, and the owner, and the listing agent as well. There you have it. Just bring out your checkbook.
Yeah, I pretty much frown on that also. I'd much rather have two different agents handling it. A lot of times, your E&O policy doesn't even cover that because there is too much of a probability of fraud or misrepresentation, et cetera. So I really discourage that. There are some E&O policies that do allow that, but they've got some pretty strict rules. So it's much better if it's your own property, is let somebody else list it, let somebody else sell it, and you just be the principal in the deal. So I think that's the best way to go.
The agency is just such a huge issue. You've just got to really, really be careful.
Here we come, Rob.
Everybody's got it.
Bill, I was going to ask you, particularly in your office, you mentioned there's such a huge amount of cultural diversity in terms of agents coming into the business. English is their second language. Are you finding some resources for some of them to be trained, for example, on the RPA in that language, or is it still trying to find agents who can be kind of the point person for you? Because it's a major problem for us.
I think we're trying to teach Larry Spiteri Chinese.
We're having an issue with that. Earl, you're right. I have not found anybody with that capability. We do have a lot of dialects spoken in Fremont. I think I have pretty much every language, spoken there in that office. And, we get those clients every now and then. They'll call in and I need a Mandarin speaking agent, or I need someone who speaks Tagalog, or I need this or that. And we hook them up. And that's, but as far as me as the owner, I've known these folks for years, so I'm assuming that they're very good at that language and they understand the contract well. But I do know that if there are issues, they know they can come and ask me. But again, I can tell them something, I'm not sure where it goes in the translation. That's always, my biggest concern is what gets lost in the translation.
Just as a quick follow-up to that, are you finding any times that your listing agents are getting offers on newer properties, Fremont or even up here in the Pleasanton area, where the agents never come to see the property at all? They're sending their clients, they maybe don't have MLS access here at all. They've never seen the property, they write an offer, and your agents end up doing essentially double-ending it because they're coaching somebody who's frankly out of their depth.
Yeah, they're doing twice the work, getting half the fee, basically. And obviously, when they do their agent's disclosure, they better do a darn good job.
Well, like when the other agent sends you the ABIT and it's the exact same thing that was on your ABIT. Exactly.
Yeah,
Amazingly
Yeah,
similar.
that's true, but I've kind of prepped some of our agents that when you're an agent on these transactions, you got to be prepared to do both sides anyways. So you got to be prepared that you can't just say, well, hey, that's that agent's responsibility. We all have a responsibility to get the deal closed. You got to do what you got to do to get it done. And sometimes that means you're going to end up doing extra work. Then so be it. The nice thing about that, at least it'll get done right.
Karen, one last question.
Yeah, my question is, doesn't CAR provide some of the RPAs in multiple languages?
Yes, they're in multiple languages, but, you know, you can't really they don't necessarily understand the contract. Reading it in your language and understanding the verbiage are two terribly different things. In fact, it could be a higher liability giving it to them in Spanish, assuming now they understand it.
You know, I think the challenge you get in that too is now all of a sudden you bring it to your English only reading, you know, seller, and they're going to go, what the heck is this?
No, but my understanding is the way that people are using them is they're bringing in that contract, giving the client the contract, and still writing the contract in English, but explaining it to them paragraph by paragraph. Okay, this paragraph, this is what this says, is that what you understand?
The problem is the interpretation. That's the root of the problem, is the interpretation.
And just because they speak English doesn't mean they understand English, and doesn't mean they understand real estate.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much.
We'll hang around.
Yeah, hang around if you have any other questions. We're going to wrap up. We have community announcements and moving on from there. Thank you very much. Okay, as we're